welcome to the Mindful Dose podcast. We're back with another Lunar Talk segment, and this week is the full moon in Scorpio 2026. So I'm really excited for this one because Uranus has officially moved out of Taurus. Taurus is the opposite of Scorpio. So it's the first full moon Scorpio in 7 years that we have had without Uranus kind of pulling in its opposition. So that really changes the experience, and it lightens up what I feel is just the pressure of unexpected information. So thank you for tuning in. Before we jump into the chart, I just want to briefly introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Adriana. I am an astrologer. I have been self-taught and practicing for many years, but recently I have finally invested into a certificate program in traditional astrology. So these lunation talks began as a way for me to just practice the language and speaking fluently in astrology, but now I feel more inclined to speak from an almost academic point of view perspective. So I just want to encourage you to stick around if you're a newbie, because my approach will be very slow and I will explain as much as I feel intuitively called to. So my approach will be beginner friendly, but I will do that with the goal and the perspective to get you up to speed or up to the pace of the language so that you too can begin to speak and understand and practice astrology. All right, so with that all being said, you can follow me on Substack. You can subscribe to my Substack to get weekly tarot scopes. And that way, every week you get a little more information for your sign, your rising or your sun sign, on the activity that's going on. And I think that would be a really great way to be fluent and get more familiar with the language of astrology. These lunar talks are also just as important, and it's a great way for us to emotionally check in, which is a big part of the human experience, and the moon ruling our emotions and our inner world. It's a nice way to just tap in and reflect as the moon does. So welcome to Lunar Talks through Mindful Dose. All right, any more information about me and the services that I provide are going to be in the description below. I am doing astrology readings at a very low cost while I'm getting training. And then once I get certified, it will be at the cost that's on my website. So, all right, let's go in. All right, so here we are looking at the chart for May 1st, 2026 at 1:22 Eastern Time. Here we are with Aries rising. Just ignore the house numbers. And the reason why I wanted at Aries rising is I don't want to concentrate on the lunation chart as with the rising, just because some of us are tuning in at different parts of the world or the country. So let's keep the rising neutral, and here we are with Aries rising. Okay, so the lunation is here. The sun is at Taurus, 11 degrees, and the moon is in Scorpio at 11 degrees. 11 degrees in 20 minutes. And look at this. No Uranus happening in Taurus anymore. Uranus is all the way over here in Gemini. So Uranus, this little guy here, has been moving through all of Taurus for the last 7 years. It takes 7 years in each house for Uranus to travel through. And what's really nice, again, is that Uranus is no longer in Taurus. Uranus is not a bad guy. It's not a bad planet. It's a fun planet, but let's say Taurus is just the character of the zodiac that does not like surprises. They don't like surprise parties. Even though it's a fun thing, just don't do it for Taurus. And Uranus has been throwing surprise parties all through these last 7 years at Taurus's house. So Taurus is like, gosh, finally I could just clean up and, get comfortable in my own home. So that this lunation is now missing that discomfort with surprises. It's now just clear as day, sun in Taurus, moon in Scorpio. And the reflection here is a deep one. It's an introspective one. I think that this would be a great lunation to really reflect on the last 7 years, because the purpose of Uranus is to help us see things from a different point of view. We're not going to have it all figured out, and Uranus will humbly and lovingly remind us of that as it moves through the zodiac. Because just imagine if we, let's say, did figure it all out, how stale and boring life would be. So Uranus is there to kind of just shake things up a bit, especially with the perspective of wanting for self-growth to happen through the experience. So it's not to shake things up so that you don't catch a break. It's to shake things up that are outdated or no longer, fitting for the time. With time, life is full of ups and downs, right? And we really experience the depth of life as we continuously go around the sun, have our solar return. So as we get older, we really develop an opinion and perspective on life. And some of us are dealt with cards that can shape that perspective to be harsh and tight. And for others, the cards kind of help you see abundance and growth and a perspective that just continues to grow. So wherever you are on that spectrum, it's pretty universal that we develop an opinion that we like to attach to. And Uranus is a great influence through that yoga perspective to detach from permanence. Not everything in life is permanent. It just continues to change, and it continues to shift into something that will bring in a new perspective. And that's important for our mental health. And so now that Uranus is in an air sign, the first air sign, it's a flexible air sign, it's a mutable sign, Gemini, Uranus can now really shake things up, and the shake doesn't have to rock us or knock us down off our feet. That shake up actually works for us. And I feel excited for this transit. I have my own perspective and opinion on the way that Uranus and Gemini will manifest. But I'll leave that for Substack and my Instagram, so check those out also. But going back to Taurus, now Taurus just gets to finally stabilize as it is naturally intended to do, and Scorpio can now feel connected deeply to Taurus. These are both fixed signs, meaning that they like things to be consistent and to remain the same. Which is so contrary to Uranus's energy. So this lunation is finally like that ability to stay in an area and root down wherever Taurus and Scorpio are in your chart. They're not making any aspects at all. So I'm just gonna look at Taurus once more and look at what Venus is doing to get a little more of an influence. And here we are. Venus is in Gemini, and it's making an aspect. It's separating, but it's making an aspect to the nodes. So it's separating, it's kind of moving away from the cosmic direction of this period of our lives, but it's still making a connection. It's having a conversation. And where time is kind of taking us, it's very much more intellectual. AI is no secret to us now, and it's only going to continue to grow. And that's one of my Uranus and Gemini insights. So with Uranus now co-present with Venus, it's kind of saying like, just don't be surprised to now accept a new subject of conversation in your daily life. AI is really going to grow into a way similar to how the World Wide Web has come to grow for us. So yeah, that's one background information relating to this lunation. Now I'm going to take a look at the moon, and the ruler of the moon in traditional astrology is Mars. So Mars is making an aspect, it's applying to Jupiter. Mars is a benefic, it's what I would consider a tough teacher, and Jupiter is a benefic, and I would consider Jupiter an inspiring teacher. A tough teacher can also be inspirational. I would say that, malefics and benefics are inspirational in their own ways, but when I say inspirational with the benefic Jupiter, I mean it as in encouraging and caringly pushing us forward. So Jupiter is in its exaltation, meaning it does its best quality. Its best qualities are taken through the Cancer zodiac sign. Mars is at home at Aries, so we have the benefic and the malefic, I would say, positioned nicely, and with a malefic applying to the benefic. And it seems like the Mars is in its superior, meaning that it kind of has like the upper hand in this conversation. Emotionally speaking, I feel like this lunation won't be as easy to do that reflection of, wow, how great and, inspiring my life has been the last 7 years with Uranus and Taurus. If that's what you're thinking, and if you're not, that's totally fine. That this reflection period may not be so easy peasy. It might be challenging, and it might be, I'm feeling like intuitively to say, like, there might be some grudge or some resentment about the reflection of the past. And I think that, like, the best way to find, like, middle ground, because you may not have had a pleasant Uranus through Taurus experience. And the full moon has just constantly been poked. The full moon in Scorpio has constantly been poked by the Uranus upheaval. So now that it's not there, your way of expressing yourself during this lunation is more, the chances of you being heard fully and completely are there. So just, take that space where you're being heard and express yourself, but don't overdo it. Don't burn everybody to scar them. Just kind of share the heat of what you've experienced. If that resonates. I'm kind of speaking poetically. Mars applying to Jupiter like that kind of tells me, like, you're being cared for under this lunation, but Mars can tend to get away with how much heat to share and put out there, because we have Mercury and Chiron here, which is just shortly after the lunation. Mercury and Chiron are going to make a full conjunction, but you can see here clear as day they're both at 27 degrees Aries. So generally, in the astrology perspective, not just with Uranus moving into a new sign, not just with this Aries like house party over here with all these planets here and Aries, I just feel like there's a lot of stories are wrapping up during this time, and I can just look at it objectively and see the pandemic era. Definitely, it was the beginning of that Uranus-Taurus experience. Chiron was pretty early in the Aries sector of our chart. So a lot of the stories that are wrapping up now were also overlapping when they first began, which takes us just before, freshly before the pandemic era. So I feel like I can objectively say that pandemic era is just one of many of these manifestations that have really challenged us and really has forced us to look at our resources a little differently, but also find that healing within ourselves. And I'm referring to the Uranus and Taurus transit in terms of our resources and healing a part of ourselves with the Chiron through Aries transit. And yeah, so with Mercury and Chiron being at the very end of Aries, and it'll be here for another year before it officially moves into Taurus. I just feel that there's more of an emotionally charged lunation interpretation for this week, because one story has already kind of wrapped up, Uranus and Taurus, but there is still one that's still kind of lingering and speaking, and that's Chiron and Aries. And with Mercury right on top, Mercury, the planet of communication and words and thoughts, right on top of Chiron, I will not be surprised if anyone or everyone that you come into contact with is speaking of their healing journey to some capacity. It may be more intensely charged with Mars applying to Jupiter, but I think that in the background, like for everyone, is that we feel a little hopeful. We feel better. We feel like emotionally supported in some way. So this lunation, like off the bat, the sun and the moon are only applying to each other, but in the background with their rulers, there is a lot to talk about. I'm really excited for this lunation, because with the theme of many stories coming to an end and new stories beginning, it's a really great time to release. It's almost like it's the final boomerang toss, except this time it's not coming back. That's kind of how I feel with this Uranus exit from Taurus and having this first lunation on this axis without Uranus in the conversation. So this was so much fun. I can't wait to touch base with you guys on the Taurus new moon, because that's just going to be even more special with Uranus. I like it. I should just title this episode First Lunation, Uranus out of Taurus. But yeah, the full moon is an exciting start to wrap things up or encourage the direction we want to take to exit the pending storylines that are still being played, but also an important time to feel the direction, this new direction in our life that's just around the bend. The Venus aspect to the North Node is really like sitting with me in this conversation, because this new set of storylines that we're beginning, it's an exciting time. And follow your rising sign, your sun sign horoscope to know where you're kind of molding and shaping this, because it's exciting. Like these outer planet transits are really shifting the way the world is kind of reflecting and operating through, and it's a new style of energy, I would say. So with that all being said, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and follow to keep up with me and to keep up with the transits. Any questions, just let me know. I'll see you guys next time.